Buckeye Talk coming to you from after Ohio State's 66-17 blowout of Maryland here to close out the first half of the season. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Means and Doug Lesmerises. Ryan Day said after the game that defensive coordinator Carrie Combs got the game ball. Obviously, he's had kind of a tumultuous first half of the season. Maybe that's too strong of a word. Maybe not. He was demoted from play calling duties, and with the time of the season when this team was really struggling, a lot of the blame was kind of pointed at him and how the defense was being structured, and now things are going in the right direction, and especially going in the right direction on the defensive side of the ball. So, Doug, when you heard that Ryan Day said that they gave Carrie Combs the game ball, what did that mean to you? What does it mean for this team that maybe there's some healing going on that side of the ball or just kind of within the ranks?
I mean, winning cures everything, right? And that's a big chunk of this. But I do think it's mostly that, listen, it was a very public thing to be demoted publicly, and that, we've got your back. So there's a lot of good feelings around this defense right now, and there were a lot of questions in the postgame about, what's the biggest difference between this and the Oregon game? And one of the biggest differences is Joe Moorhead's not calling the plays for the teams they've played since Oregon.
Very fair.
But I do think a lot of it is they just do have the right guys on the field now, and you can see that because they put another one of those guys who hadn't played much since the Oregon game back on the field today, and then the same thing happened against Oregon. It's okay, that's why that guy doesn't play that much anymore. So the fact that they found the right guys, and then again, they made the shift. The biggest thing is they took they less single high safety, more two safety, more zone. We all see that. We've talked about that. But it's a nice nod to Carrie Combs because it was it's a public demotion, so let's give him very public and make sure the world knows we gave this guy the game ball because he's still one of us.
And Ryan Day earlier in the week had said some similar things about Carrie Combs. I think he got a question about Matt Barnes and why he was the guy that was given the duties to call the plays. And before he went into that, he kind of prefaced it by saying, hey, Larry Johnson's done a really good job, and Carrie Combs is still showing up and doing good things. So he's got that theme has kind of been out there this week that Ryan Day has kind of been trying to impress upon people. I was the one who asked one of those questions to the defensive guys. It was Cody Simon and Steele Chambers in there at the time. What's changed? Go back to week one and look at it now. What's the biggest difference on this defense? And both of them kind of answered in such a way that people are playing better, but there's a trust that's been built. They trust. I think every individual trusts that has more confidence that they can do the job, and then there's that trust that the guy next to you is going to do his job. So you don't find yourself being out of place, doing the wrong thing the way they were doing, especially in that Oregon game. But I think you saw bits of that even into the Tulsa game, where this still was a defense that hadn't fused together, was very still unsettled, and now you're starting to see a more cohesive unit out there and a more confident unit out there. Stephen, as you look at the way this defense has progressed over 3 weeks since that Tulsa game, what stands out the most to you, and what do you think is maybe the thing that's going to continue success into the second half?
Guys know what they're doing because, as Ryan Day said, they're not really young anymore. They have the experience, but also I think the scheme and the play calling matches your personnel, and it didn't match the first couple of weeks. You were playing as if you had Chase Young and Jeff Okudah and Jordan Fuller. And if you don't have those guys, being simple doesn't work, which is why the defensive line's not getting pressure because Ryan Day said it multiple times now. The quarterback is seeing the same picture pre-snap that he's seeing post-snap. They're going to, as you said, Doug, the two high stuff, the single high stuff. They're blitzing cornerbacks. They're blitzing, linebackers. So it's helping get the pressure from the defensive line we've seen the last couple of weeks here. So it starts there. Guys know what they're doing, but also they're helping this type of personnel be the best version of itself instead of just saying, oh, we've got 5 stars, go be a 5-star. That's not how this always works. But with the Carrie Combs thing, it felt very similar to the conversation we had with Marcus Williamson earlier this week, where a guy had to recognize that he probably wasn't the best person for the job, but he could have taken that the wrong way. He could have thrown a hissy fit and just been like, I'm out. I'm done. If I'm not the defensive coordinator, if I'm not calling plays, if you're going to demote me, I'm not going to be here anymore. But just like Marcus Williamson has done it and recognized his role on his team and got rewarded this week by being a starter and playing well, Carrie Combs has taken the demotion without the pay cut, which is always a good thing for him. And he's doing the best at the job he's doing now, which is helping these cornerbacks, which is why you're seeing Denzel Burke playing well. Sevyn Banks is playing well. Cam Brown, when he's healthy and out there, is playing well. And the guys in the safety room are playing well as well. So it's a combination of all those things. Guys accepting what they're good at and what they're not good at, but also, the defensive scheme now matches the personnel in a way that it hasn't since 2019.
Something that's still really intriguing to me about this defense is they've got a guy in Tyreek Smith who warmed up today, looked like he was maybe going to try and play and didn't get there. It was a game-time decision, but he went through all the warm-ups. I thought that was a positive progression. I mean, go back to the end of last season. That guy was playing fantastic. Go back to that Clemson game. He was like tearing people up. That's a guy who's like an upper rounds of the NFL draft kind of guy that you're about to just drop into a defense that's already playing pretty well again. Like it's definitely turned the corner, I think. Doug, I guess what's sort of your confidence now in this defense compared to where it was 3 years ago as far as being able to help this team push through what are still some fairly decent challenges ahead, whether that's Penn State, whether that's Michigan, whether that's who they might get in the Big Ten championship game?
Compared to 2018 defense, is that what you mean?
I said no, just to even where they were 3 weeks ago, compared to what you saw against Tulsa when they're only up by a touchdown with 4 minutes left.
Well, I feel like Larry Johnson, to Steven's point, they're getting after the quarterback in a couple different ways, but I feel like he lit a fire a little bit too. He came in the 1 week and talked to us and was like, you can't just bull rush guys. You've got to use your technique. And I feel like they're doing that better. I mean, again, there was a time when we were like, oh, what's going on with Larry Johnson? Why are the defensive linemen getting pressure? Is there something wrong with Larry Johnson? It's like, well, he's still like the best defensive line coach in the country. And now we're seeing that. So, Are there extraordinary, rare talents on this defense? I don't know, but I think they're all playing closer to their maximum. We also have to note Haskell Garrett left the game, and Ryan Day said it's been something he's been struggling with, so we don't know what that means. But if he can't play, that would be a big loss because he's at the top of the list of those guys who were close to being extraordinary.
But Ohio State does have a week off coming up and then the game at Indiana. So that's time where some guys get to get extra treatment. They get to recover. They get to heal up and rest up. And I think that applies to Tyreek Smith. I think that's probably going to apply to Cam Brown, who's been banged up a little bit. They're going to probably take a healthier defense into the second half of the season.
I'll say this one thing. In my confidence level, I think this offense is going to score 40. That's just what it's going to do. This defense is good enough to allow that offense to do it and it be a luxury and not feel like C.J. Stroud has to go out there and get 40. I think that's the best. That's the most you can ask for is this defense. Do enough to where the offense can be awesome, and it can just be that, and you can win games.
We're going long. I don't know for sure they're going to score 40 against Penn State and Iowa.
Right.
So, I mean, not to take away anything, but I do think we might need to see this defense be great when the offense runs up against a much better defense than they've faced so far.
Yeah, there may still be a 35-21 game out there that has to be on a 28-21 game. We don't know. I mean, there is still, I think you have to hold back just a little bit and say Ohio State hasn't been on the field against a above-average Big Ten team or that caliber team since it played Oregon. So we still have some things to learn, but it's definitely trending in the right direction. 614-350-3315 for the text. We're going to keep them coming all through the bye week and on into the following week when they head to Indiana to start the second half of the year.